Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. It's your boy Izzy, and you know what it is. It is Football Saturday, and in this one, we are going to talk Manchester City against Nottingham Forest. Man City come out 2-0 winners, but is it a Pyrrhic victory because Rodri got a red card and will now miss 3 games, 2 of which could actually be very impactful. The first half hour was nothing but Manchester City, and you can look at the possession to just know how dominant they were. At some point, Manchester City had 90% of ball possession. Nottingham Forest had only strung about 23 passes in the first 25 minutes. Absolutely mind-blowing. But the thing is, when you're that comfortable, the other team needs to find something to kind of dig at you to peel themselves away from the trouble that they're facing. Because that game could have easily have been 5 or 6-0 in that first half. They are absolutely mesmeric when they play sometimes, Manchester City. And Nottingham Forest went in there with pretty much the same game plan, which is try and just sit back and soak as much as you can. It didn't go to plan because after the first 15 minutes, they were already 2 goals down. And one could have feared that the same scoreline from last season would show itself this season. It was looking like it had 5 or 6 or 7 written all over it. But Nottingham Forest have a weird, plucky way of staying in these games. And one of the things that they started doing was ruffling feathers. And when Gibbs White and Rodri went head to head, I was a little bit astounded by Rodri's reaction to what did not seem a very bad challenge, or like they were fighting for the ball at the corner flag, and that's one of the things that you just expect Rodri to brush off and maybe walk away. But something must have been said because he did put his hands around Gibbs White's neck, although Gibbs White's reaction was a little laughable. Now maybe he might have struck him, I don't know, somewhere close to the jugular, but it didn't warrant the reaction. I think VAR would have gotten the point if Gibbs White probably just clung to his neck and maybe keeled over a little bit. But regardless, Rodri has gotten a red card and now will miss the next 3 fixtures for Manchester City. Now, one of them is going to be against Newcastle, and the other one is going to be against Arsenal. And that's going to be on the tail end because they have a match next week that's going to be in the league. I'm pretty sure they're going to put in Kovacic, or they will rejigger some way to have. They might have John Stones back there. So I get that. They might, push Stones over there. But Rodri has been immense for them, and he has grown in stature by leaps and bounds, especially as, every campaign comes and goes. And they're going to miss him terribly because Arsenal are going to come out all guns blazing, regardless of how the next couple of fixtures are going to go for them. And so when they lose Rodri, especially in the manner that they lost him today, you kind of have to ask yourself if that was a tactic that Nottingham Forest came up with, because later on we saw Awani do the same thing with Edison. And I think Edison had taken umbrage with the fact that Awani was trying to make a little bit more of what the challenge was, and I think he wanted a penalty. Both of them got booked. But Nottingham Forest clearly had a plan to try and ruffle some feathers in that game to be able to knock Manchester City off their perch. Now, eventually, City did win the game, and it did become a little bit more feisty in the second half. Nottingham Forest should have started the game the way they ended it because they seemed much more confident attacking Manchester City when it's 10 men. Now, we've seen Manchester City destroy teams even with 10 men. So I just think that Nottingham Forest should have had that tactic at the beginning. They seem to try and save a lot more of their energy for the last 10 to 15 minutes of the games against the bigger sides, and then try to hit them on the counterattack a little bit more. As far as what it means for the table, Manchester City remain perfect. 6 wins out of 6. Guardiola's been here before, so he's not going to get carried away. But the performance in the first half hour was absolutely electric. And we can't get away from the fact that when Manchester City, even when they're 1 person down, they are still a force to reckon with. So a little bit of hope for the Arsenal faithful that they might be able to face Manchester City without an important cog in the team. And for Newcastle, when it comes to the Carabao Cup, they are going to face City without Rodri. But whether or not it's actually going to be telling is another story, because Manchester City are a plug and play team. And I'm pretty sure they will put John Stones or somebody else who can effectively take care of that position. The question is whether he's going to take care of it as effectively as Rodri does, because he offers such a different dimension, because he has an attacking threat exemplified by some of his goals this season. And he has that defensive nous of being in the right place at the right time. And he can even find a pass. It might not really harm them in the short term, but in that pressurized game at the Emirates, because Arsenal are going to try and make a statement. Remember, they have lost, I think, their last 12 league games against Manchester City, and they are due a win. They've had a few good performances against Manchester City without getting rewarded. So that's about it. Nottingham Forest were absolutely flattened in the first half. They did come out a little bit in the second half. They didn't really trouble them enough for it to look like it was a close game. The scoreline was much closer than what it should have been, especially given the fact that Rodri got a red card. And Manchester City are going to keep on ticking on. And I can see them winning next week's game as well. But the real test is going to be away at Arsenal, because Arsenal are going to try and show who they are. All's well that ends well at the Etihad. All that despite the Rodri red card. But they didn't really look in any danger of losing this game at any point. All they had to do was be a little bit more alert in the second half because of the red card. But that's all I got for right now. Stay tuned for the Manchester United and Burnley game and my review of that. And check out my Brentford and Everton review. As well, I am going to be dropping the Kai Havertz video today. I have had to go through different versions of it to make sure that it is YouTube friendly. So thank you for watching this. It's been your boy Izzy. Peace.